What if I told you that our lives are so interconnected, so intertwined, that if you gave me any 3 items, I could show you how they relate to each other? In a way, that's what journalism is all about, connecting the dots. My name is Rob Michaelson, and this is Connect the Dots, and I'm going to take you on a magic carpet ride and show you just how connected the world is. To help me prove it, my team gave me the names of a bunch of things, events, issues, and objects that I'll choose at random and go on a bit of a journalist scavenger hunt to find out how each are related. And so, to kick things off, we put everything into these lovely teacups that my wife is letting me use for this. So first, we're gonna start off with the events. Gonna choose something at random here, and we have the Boston Marathon. The Boston Marathon, something I've been to a couple times, never ran in it. I'm a walker, not a runner. Then we have student debt. Ooh, that is a fun one, very topical, something that is a plague upon many of my friends' bank accounts. And then last but not least, we have coffee. The good old bean, the good old water beans. I drink a coffee every day. I always take it black because that's how I roll. But that's gonna be very exciting. We have coffee, student debt, and the Boston Marathon. Let's connect the dots. I wanted to get in the zone, so I went out for a run to brainstorm the connection. Just kidding, I actually took my laptop to my easy chair and did it there. Even reached out to a few of my coworkers for a little phone a friend action. Can you think of anything, Shiro? This doesn't sound promising. That was a pregnant pause, Shiro.
Coffee gets you energized.
Right.
So that'll make you want to run.
It doesn't make me want to run. I drink coffee and then I go lay down and play Nintendo Switch.
Let's just go with that, right? So you drink coffee, it makes you want to run. So you're gonna be motivated to run the Boston Marathon.
And we run away from our problem of student debt. There we go. We're running away from our problems. A good start. Now it was time to take my initial ideas and do what journalists do best. Google the terms together and see what I find. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. We're gonna make that happen. And this information prospector struck gold right away with a solid connection between the Boston Marathon and student debt through second place Boston Marathon finisher Sarah Sellers. All right, let's see what we got here. The Boston Marathon runner-up spending her prize money to pay off for student debt. This is good. This is what we in the news like to call a hot lead. Sarah Sellers is a nurse, so I found the hospital where she works and left a message. Then more digging into a Boston Marathon and coffee connection revealed another strong connection through Boston Marathon winner Des Linden. Boston Marathon winner shares a secret of success. Ooh, stash. So Boston Marathon runner apparently made their own coffee. There's interesting science with sports and caffeine, and I'm gonna look into that. Des Linden won the 2018 Boston Marathon, the same year that Sarah Sellers placed second. Fate led me to these ladies, but finding a connection between student debt and coffee was tough. Then it struck me. So many people complain about, quote, millennials spending too much on coffee and lattes. Let's see if that has any impact on paying student debt. Kevin O'Leary, don't spend money on things like coffee if you're paying off debt. That's the key to financial success. That's the key to financial success. So it looks like there's a lot of coffee shaming going on for the young people with their student debt. It's not the tens of thousands of dollars that people owe, it's the coffee that we buy. So student loans and coffee, the link there is a lot of shame. Might be something to work with. I started preliminary research to see if small costs like a cup of coffee can impact one's ability to pay back student loans. Then decided to call it a day and went to go play some Rocket League. Woke up the next morning excited to chase down some new leads. Brewed myself a cup of coffee, and the time to start was right about now. Well-timed sip. It's not too hot at all. Trying to connect with Sarah Sellers, I figured I'd try her Instagram. Maybe she'll see it while browsing the feed. And bingo. All right, just got back from the store, and we got a response from Sarah. She is down for an interview. Thank you, Instagram, for being yet another platform for journalists to bother people for interviews. Hi, Sarah.
Hey.
Hi, this is Rob Michaelson with NBC10 Boston. How you doing?
Oh, I'm great. How are you doing?
Sarah and I talked about her student debt. Shortly before running the marathon, Sarah graduated with around $70,000 in student loans. Her husband graduated with around $150,000.
What's more stressful, training for a marathon or thinking about your student loans?
Yeah, for sure. I'd say they're very different stressors. Like a marathon, I get really stressed out for specific workouts that, I want that workout to go well or that tune-up race to go well. But it's also something I feel like I have control over that day. Conquering something like student debt is more just like you're in it for the long haul. You're kind of just chipping away. So I guess, yeah, it is definitely similar to a marathon.
But thanks to the $75,000 in prize money she got for finishing second,
the conditions were so crappy that I just was trying to get to the finish and I had no idea what place I was in.
getting jobs in the medical field helped too. However, not everyone gets a stable job out of college. So I made a note to look into the best methods of paying off student loans. Should people make it a sprint or a marathon? I reached out to one of our lifestyle producers, Hannah, for a good source, since she has done plenty of segments centered on fitness. And bonus, she's also completed 3 marathons. She had a solid lead.
So there's some people, again, the TMI of running, that drink coffee early enough, like it's an intentional, so that they can poop before they run.
Really? Jackpot. Well, quite the connection. I stared at the camera over here because I have a camera.
Perfect.
I'm breaking the third wall, or fourth wall.
There we go.
I'm
like
breaking
it.
all the walls.
This was too good to pass up. I doubled down on finding a dietitian to talk about it. In the meantime, I tweeted at Des Linden, the 2018 winner, on Twitter because I was thirsty for an interview. But of course, there was another connection to tackle.
Well, having myself a cup of joe, I really want to dig more into the financial side of the whole coffee and student loan connection. Hoping to find some financial advisors or some sort of like financial expert. I don't know how to end these. Actually, I drank it. I was gonna pretend to sip this coffee, but I'm not gonna lie to you because I'm a journalist and I always tell the truth. But I will pretend to sip. That's good.
Persistence paid off, and I had my second Boston Marathon runner on the hook for an interview. Des Linden kicked off her own coffee company with her husband right before she won the Boston Marathon. Great timing and marketing.
Yeah, so Linden by 2 is our company, and we do really light roasts, mostly single origin. So beans from all over, but I kind of gravitate towards the East Africans, the Kenyans, the Ethiopians, Burundis.
She drinks a coffee before her morning run and told me that she brings caffeine into the mix towards the end of a marathon run, mostly for a mental boost.
There's been a number of studies where having that caffeine late in the race, the marathon particularly, our body has fuel to burn still. It's still there, the muscles still have energy, but our mind goes, no, I think I've been working too long. I want to start shutting down. Wakes you up a little bit and says, hey, we still have this energy, you're okay, and just kind of keeps you engaged. So I like to use it in the later parts of the race just as that mental stimulus to, okay, we still have fuel here.
So I found some of those studies on the effects of caffeine in athletics. One on cyclists shows that a moderate dose of caffeine late in the exercise improved their time performance. But of course, what I really wanted to know was how runners handle the bathroom problem.
Yeah, it's actually huge in running. One, coffee in the morning, it does this thing where it wakes up your stomach, and then you do that thing before you go for your run.
That thing being a number 2, I assume?
2, and you want to do that prior to the run instead of get stuck out there and go, oh no. So it kind of speeds that process up. It's a huge thing. Like it's every runner's greatest fear, right? Pictures everywhere. The internet never forgets. This is a real fear of people. But knock on wood, I've never had that happen.
And I'll knock on wood for her one more time. I heard back from Coach Roberto Mange of the New York Roadrunners and sat with him for an interview to see what he had to say about what runners need to consider before hitting the pavement. He works with runners and caters their training and diet to their individual needs, because fueling the body is just as important as working it out.
And I think that's everybody's nightmare, whether you drink coffee or not. If nature calls, nature doesn't care. If you're winning the Boston Marathon or if this is your first, marathon, it's just like, hey, I'm calling. If you don't answer, I'm coming in anyway. So again, in the training, hopefully you've kind of worked that out.
Towards the end of the interview, I became suspicious of Roberto when I learned a shocking secret.
I've actually never had coffee in my life.
Never in your life?
Never in my life. I'm one of those weirdos, I know.
How do you go through life without even taking a sip?
But Roberto is an athletic dynamo, and I am a fried couch potato. So if he doesn't want to ride the up and down roller coaster of coffee, good for him. Actually, when it comes to coffee, there are some experts that agree with Roberto, for different reasons.
I never buy a frappe, latte, blah, 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 woof, woof, woof.
When you could make it at home for 50 cents.
I would not insult myself by wasting money that way.
Woo. Cool. Seems like there's a lot more to that story.
Would pulling a Roberto and not having any more coffee, specifically not buying any more coffee, make a big impact on paying down student debt? Let's crunch the numbers. The average amount of student debt is around $39,351, and the average latte cost $4. So it would take about 9,838 undrunk lattes, which at one latte a day would be about 27 years of undrunk frappe latte blah 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 woof woof woofs.
Frappe, latte, blah, 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 woof, woof, woof.
You know, every penny counts. But will cutting small costs really help that much? Boston-based student loan lawyer Adam Minsky makes it his business to understand student debt and helping graduates navigate the perilous world of repayment.
I think it's a horrible cliche that isn't really grounded in reality. A lot of millennials are living at home, right? Because they are trying to save money because of their student loans, or they simply don't have the income or the credit to be able to get approved for an apartment. A lot of people are working 2 jobs. A lot of people are working side hustles and side jobs to make extra money. You know, buying a couple cups of coffee is not going to meaningfully change, in my view, whether or not a person is going to be able to afford their student loan repayment or not. It's just not significant enough in comparison to how significant these student debt burdens can really be.
You see, that's where many people are focusing this issue, not on the fancy coffees, but on the real rise in the cost of living, medical, and other expenses that have outpaced wages. Tuition rose more than 200% at four-year public colleges between 1988 and 2018, but average wages have the same purchasing power now as they did in the 80s. According to the Federal Reserve, the average monthly student loan payment is $393, and housing prices are not going down anytime soon. Your parents may have been able to work a part-time job to pay off their student debt, but is this really the same world that they lived in?
Cost of living is very high, especially in the Northeast and the West Coast. You got to have gas in the car. You got to have insurance. A lot of folks don't even have a savings account. You know, things like dining out, going to bars, things like that. That's probably the area that can be most addressed. But you know, for folks with crippling student loan debt, that in and of itself may not be enough.
And since my conversation with Sarah Sellers had me curious, is it better to pay off student loans as fast as possible, sprint to the finish line, or pace yourself for a marathon?
Well, I think, if you have the means to both meet your student loan obligations and also save and invest and plan for the future, it shouldn't have to be mutually exclusive, even though there's sort of an understandable sort of emotional push to just get rid of your debt. If you start saving for retirement early on, the payoff will be a lot better than if you hold off and wait too long. And I think that too often, folks who have student loans are holding off buying a house. They are holding off on saving for retirement. And if you have the means to meet your student loan obligations and also put some money in the bank, that really is probably the best way to do it, because you're sort of covering all your bases. You're paying down your loans while you're also preparing for the future.
And you know who probably won't stop buying coffee? Runners. In 2019, approximately 17,000 cups of coffee and tea were consumed by athletes in the Athletes Village staging area before the Boston Marathon, according to Chris Lotzbaum from the Boston Athletic Association. There are tons of places to get coffee along the marathon route, so the next logical step would be to talk to one of them about how the Boston Marathon affects their business. I reached out to about a dozen cafes along the route, and Courtney from Trident Booksellers and Cafe was more than happy to share.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Marathon Monday is like, the best. It's a holiday, and it's a holiday that as a business is like the only one we get to celebrate with everybody else because we're not closed. We're about 20% up on our average day. That being said, I mean, compared to another Monday, we're up like 200%. It's like a holiday It's like a Saturday or Sunday essentially. And then, but the whole week is up 25% because we are, hosting, again, people from all over the world, all over the country are coming into town. It's always really noticeable. The Tuesday after the marathon, we're always really busy. And I think we're up 25% from our average day.
And last but not least, performance dietitian Luke Corey got back to me, and we got to talk about how caffeine affects athletes and their bowels. So why is coffee famous for cleaning out our system, so to speak?
So caffeine itself is a stimulant, as we know, and it not only does it stimulate your brain and your nervous system, but it also can stimulate your bowels, right? So basically gets your bowels moving. It's going to move whatever's in there through a lot quicker. But then there's also compounds in coffee. Basically, they stimulate stomach acid, and that further stimulates bowel movements, right? So it's a combination of the caffeine and the other compounds in coffee that really get the GI system moving.
So, what is the best fuel for a runner looking to reach a marathon finish line?
I wouldn't rely on caffeine as my fuel source. I think if anything, caffeine's like that little nitro boost when you need it. It's not going to help you win a long distance race. What that really comes down to is just a healthy balance of carbohydrates, proteins, and fats.
So, how do the Boston Marathon, coffee, and student loans all connect with each other? Well, first off, my favorite, drinking coffee is one method runners use to clear out before a marathon, and caffeine management is essential to achieving peak performance during a run. Boston Marathon runners come from all walks of life. Some use their winnings to pay off their student debt, while others can use a marathon win to boost sales for their coffee business. Cutting out small expenses like coffee may not matter within the larger issue of student loans, and the Boston Marathon can mean big business for local coffee shops. Those are the links I found. What links can you find? You can tell me at the metaphorical and literal finish line.
So I'm here at the finish line to the Boston Marathon, and we did it. We connected the dots. Now, I don't know about all you, but I feel like a winner. And you know what they say, it's not about the journey, it's the destination, or it's about the destination, not the journey. I don't know which, but the destination is also nice because I could be done. I could be done with this madness. All right,